before continuing the program, I wanted to give a short overview on the practicalities of HundrED. How do we see the change, and how are we trying to make the change happen? And like most of you were present yesterday, and I showed the slide, so I'm not going to be going to these ones too much. But because of the HundrED, I've been visiting, I'd say, more than 50 education events during the past 5 years. And in almost all of them, the discussion is either about why or what. And it's almost never about how. And that's, I'd say, one of the key problems. So we can be saying that, yes, we need to be teaching 4 C's, 6 C's, the world is changing, that's why we need to change the schools as well, and so on and so on. And yes, and then I'm always asking the question, how do you make the change happen? Well, we haven't been discussing about that too much. Let's concentrate on that one in the next event, and so on. And just like Pasi said, it's because it is so complicated. So that's why what I'm doing here is that why. We all know why. The world is changing, and that's why we have to that's why we need to change the schools as well. No one knows what will be the key skills in 2030, but it will be the appetite for learning new things, to be able to cope with the uncertainty, and so on and so on. So there's no news in here. Like mentioned yesterday, we still need to be teaching academic skills, but we have to find a way to teach life skills, how to cope with certainty, how to cope with stress, how to know yourself, and so forth. What are the thinking skills, empathy, creativity, and so on, but also able to operate, and so on. But also that one is quite obvious. So let's keep all of this for now and concentrate only on the how. And like mentioned, we all know that it will be extremely complicated. And that's exactly the reason why I want to simplify it as much as possible. So I don't think, not even 1 second, is that it can be simple. But I try to simplify because otherwise it will be complicated. And from HundrED's point of view, we are advocating a lot of great whole school models. And we like them, we are fans of them, and so on. But at the same time, one of our key things in here as well is the scale. Meaning we try to think is that how can you make the change happen in public schools, in countries, in global scale, and so on. And we all know is that that's the most difficult question in here. And there are many things which we feel at HundrED is that you have to change it, or kind of like change in order to make the change happen at scale. One is that we have to move from local to global. There's a lot of beautiful things happening in classrooms all over the world that no one knows about. And we are living in a global world, and it's a massive shame that education is extremely local. So that's one thing which we need to change. The second one, which is related to that one, is that instead of living in silos, saying is that education innovations don't spread, really complicated, and so on, we have to move towards cooperation. We have to change opinions, we have to make each other excited, we have to praise, we have to try, we have to communicate, and that's something which we are trying to do at HundrED. And then the last thing in here is sort of like thing that I think we are not paying enough attention. I think that we have to deeply understand what is the difference between ideas and innovations. Because quite often when we are trying to change schools, we are forcing all the time new ideas to the schools. And what is the problem with the ideas? The problem is that most of them do not work. Like on startups, roughly about 80%, 90% of the startups go to bankruptcy. So if we are forcing all the time new stuff to the school which doesn't work, you are messing up the whole system, you are frustrating teachers, and so on, and that's exactly what is happening in many countries. I'm not anti-ideas, but if you really want to make the change happen, I think that we have to put more emphasis on innovations. So what is the definition of innovation? Is that first of all, it's solving a real problem. It's solving a problem that teachers have, principals have, the system, policymakers have, and so on. It has been tested. There has to be some kind of evidence that it works. And lastly, it has to have potential to work in more than one place. And this is exactly what we are trying to do at HundrED. So for us, it's all about innovations. We try to do a lot of ambitious research on trying to identify great education innovations. One example of that one is the global collection we launched yesterday, and we are promoting that one in social media, in events, and so on and so on. In addition to this one, we are also doing spotlights. Spotlights are collections of 10 innovations that can be either about one topic. The first one we made is a spotlight on sustainability, and Natalie Day will be presenting some of the key findings in few hours in here. So that's one area. But what we are also doing is that we try to identify innovations locally, because even though our main focus is global, a lot of debate is happening on the classrooms locally, and that's why we are doing local spotlights. The first one we did was in Victoria, Australia, and the reasons why we are doing this is not only to identify the education innovations, but also to celebrate the teachers, celebrate the work, give the recognition, and so on. And we have made few deals of the new spotlights, and that's why I wanted to show you now one short video of one of our latest spotlights, which will start in US within a few months. So I'll show you a video about next spotlight, which is up and coming.
This is where it starts, where learning starts. Creativity, complexity, talent. This is where innovation starts. It starts right here in our neighborhoods, our cities, our towns, in our schools. This is where the future starts. And every morning when the bell rings, the future is here. It's the students in our classrooms. And every day, teachers around the world are taking risks, reaching higher, pushing the limits of learning. Here in Pittsburgh, we call this many things: student-centered, deeper, personalized, technology-enhanced, culturally responsive, STEM, STEAM, Maker, Next Generation, 21st Century, helping every child flourish. We've been doing it for a while. Now we're ready to share it with the world. HundrED is a global platform that shares innovations in education from across the world. In 2019, they're shining a spotlight on Pittsburgh, on the innovations growing in our hills and in our hollows, along our rivers, and in the Steel City. On the educators doing extraordinary things to help students in southwestern Pennsylvania and northern West Virginia flourish. You know where the future starts. It's time to share it with the world. Share your innovation at HundrED.org/Pittsburgh.
So this is this will happen in Pittsburgh, and our goal is to have this kind of spotlights happening in all continents, in all countries. And what are the reasons for this one? Like I mentioned, the first one is to celebrate the local experts, celebrate the work, have them feel that there's an appreciation happening. We are also trying to help people in Pittsburgh to spread innovations within Pittsburgh, also from Pittsburgh to every state of US, from Pittsburgh to every country of the world, and then also to get the teachers and experts on Pittsburgh to be open for ideas that you are creating in here. And we are not the ones who are selecting the innovations in Pittsburgh, it's local experts. So we are always operating with local experts. And like mentioned, our goal is to have 100 spotlights happening all over the world, and some of the innovations might end up in the global list as well. So this is part of the philosophy we are having, and all of this is non-profit. But then quite often when we are talking about this, people say that yes, but innovations, you cannot change the world with the innovations and so on. And our answer is yes and no. So innovations, of course, in a way, they are not enough. because sometimes innovations can take you even to a wrong direction. You can have innovations, for example, on how to increase the amount of testing and so on, and we are not pro that one. So that's why innovations need to have some kind of base, some kind of direction, some kind of shared value. So in order to kind of like be able to pick the right innovations, what we are trying to do is that let's try to agree where do we want to go, what kind of education do we want to have. And obviously every country, every school has their own values and so forth. What we are having is that everything we are doing is based on our manifesto, which you can read on our website. But the essence of this one is that each and every innovation has to help every child flourish. And when we are going through innovations, we always ask this question. And when we are looking for innovations on how to, what kind of skills should you teach? How should you teach those? How should you assess? How should you energize teachers? How should you improve the learning environments, leadership, and so on? Always the question in here is that, do these innovations help child flourish? If our answer is no, then we are not picking them even if they are innovative. But one crucial thing is lacking from here. And what is that? It's the implementation, meaning is that even if you know where you want to go, and even if you are picking great innovations, but you are implementing them badly, nothing will happen. And the big questions in here is that, how do you implement at scale? And it's far from simple. And that's why what we've decided to do at HundrED is that we are adding a new part to our operation. Everything we are doing at the moment, the HundrED.org, the global collections, the summits, and all of this will be non-profit forever. So that's the essence, and we've committed to this one. But there's a lot of education experts who are approaching us and asking from us is that, could you help us on the implementation side? And that's something which we want to be doing from in the future as well, if we want to make the change happen at scale. So quite often the questions we get is that, if I want to be teaching AI, how should I do it? What are the best procedures happening around the world? Empathy, play, assessment, and so on. So we want to be creating a service where we are helping any education expert anywhere in the world to identify great innovations and saying that this is what is happening in the world, you can pick, and we can help them to implement, but the decision is theirs, but create this kind of service. And the first example of this one will be released today, and even though HundrED is mostly K-12, this one will be on the vocational side. So with the Finnish technology industries, we are starting a project on what are the best ways to make 15-year-olds interested in vocational training, especially in technical area. So what we are doing in here, how does it work, is that together with them, we identify what is the problem, what do you mean by this, what do you want to achieve. Then we are looking for innovations on national level, what is happening in Finland. Then we are looking on the global level. Then we are kind of like trying to identify what is still missing from the equation. Then we are discussing how can you implement them so that the quality is high. And then we are testing them, and then we are giving proposals together with them, is that how can you make this happen? And all of this is the key, one of the key values. So we will be a social enterprise. Our goal is that this operation is partly funding the non-profit work we are doing, and all of this will be for free for innovators. So we are totally independent, we are promoting innovations we love, and so on, and we are never ever taking any fee from innovators. So this is sort of like the basic philosophy we are trying to do. Selecting innovations, talking about the direction where we want to be heading, and also discussing about implementation side. And this is the word we are using about things we do, which is ambitious. Meaning is that we want to be extremely ambitious. We want to make the change happen at scale. But we want to be extremely humble because it is really complicated, and there's a lot of obstacles and so on. But that's kind of like, that's one of the key things that is making it also quite motivating. So this is what I wanted to say about HundrED. We are more than happy to discuss with you on the breaks, after this one, have Skypes and so on, because our mission is to help you. It's not about us, it's about you, and fundamentally, it's about kids. Because the mission of ours is that each and every child is having access to the best possible education innovations in 2030. It will not happen overnight, but I think that the change is possible. So this is something what I wanted to say to you this morning, and now we continue, and we want to continue with one specific area, which is attitude. Because so often people are saying is that yes, but change is so complicated and so on. So the next session will be all about what kind of attitude is needed to make the change happen in school level or on a system level. And this session will be hosted by one of our ambassadors, HD Lee. Thank you.